First learning point. We cannot underestimate the damage that misrepresentation can cause. Let me cite an example. Some online commentators selectively picked out one slide out of many in an MOE lesson deck, which was circulated last week, asserting that the schools were telling the students the situation in Israel and Gaza only started 7 October 2023. This insinuated that MOE was pro-Israel and that we characterized one side as the aggressor and the other side as victim. This riled up many, but actually the words on the said slide were events since 7 October, and it came after a slide that emphasized the long, complex, and often violent history of conflict in the region. In addition, MOE had provided background material on historical developments behind the conflict to help teachers better understand the context. This was meant to be shared with students who wish for more information on the history rather than for the teacher to teach history to the whole class, which is not the learning objective of this CCE lesson. Our second learning point. Managing differences respectfully is still a work in progress. By and large, Singaporeans express our views in a civil and respectful way. Still, some of the online vitriol and anger towards MOE and our teachers from this episode reminds us that we cannot take this for granted. Some educators have received rude and abusive comments. We have come across one picture of an educator being circulated online. The caption contained a racial slur, insulting her as an uneducated person of her ethnicity, and encouraged others to make this educator's photo go viral online. MOE takes this very seriously. While we may disagree on issues, personal attacks and racial slurs against fellow Singaporeans cannot be condoned. We have to be positive role models for our children. MOE will investigate all instances of abuse, harassment, or threats against our educators. They have MOE's full support and the full protection of the law. Our third learning point. We must be very watchful for potential external interference. We have to be careful to not fall prey to their attempts to rile up our people and undermine our cohesion. Fourth learning point. Our unity depends on sustained commitment and effort. Last week, Tuan Maliki and I met more than 300 school principals again to listen to their feedback since we last discussed the issue with them in January. Many of them shared the challenges they encountered and how they overcome them. It has certainly not been an easy time for our teachers and principals. In the light of this episode and criticisms against our schools and teachers, we discussed frankly, should we continue teaching this CCE lesson? Given that some people have suggested that we should abandon it since it's so difficult and sensitive, is it still worth doing it? In response, many of my principals shared this. We asked ourselves, how can we allow the seeds of hatred and distrust to be planted in our next generation? How can we allow our society to be split by this and other similar issues? When we look back in years to come, would we have discharged our duty as educators if our people became more divided, unable to respond as one, view each other with suspicion, or become unable to manage differences or diversity respectfully and sensitively? What is our responsibility as educators? We ask ourselves the toughest two questions. If not us, who? If not now, when? I drew comfort and confidence from their conviction. Indeed, it is our duty to guide the next generation well, help them develop good character and values, and build a sound foundation for them to thrive in the future. Education is a serious responsibility. My MOE colleagues and I feel the weight of our mission. We are determined to discharge our duty and do right by our students.